Imagine staying in your cabin in the middle of winter. Then, out of nowhere, something knocks. You wait and it comes again. You take the axe that leans by the door. You pull your fur tighter, lift the latch and step out into the snow. And out where the tree line should be, 3 shapes are standing in the white. The tall one in the middle is up on 2 legs. The 2 besides it are lower, down on all 4s. They have been out there the whole time, waiting for you to open the door. This is the painting Knock Knock by Jakub Różalski, and it is one of 8 of his werewolf paintings we are going through today. You do not need part 1 or part 2 for this one, but they are linked in the description if you want to watch them. So, the painting Knock Knock came out in 2017 and it belongs to his Wolfpack world, the same setting most of the painting in this video comes from. The framing of the painting is the first thing worth talking about. Różalski puts the viewer inside the building in the dark, looking out past the man through a half-open door, almost as if we're the one frozen there, too scared to follow him out. The black door frame and the heaven wooden door fill the edges, and all the cold daylight sits in the gap between them. The man is in the center, back to us, walking out. A fur is bundled over his shoulder, and under a simple rounded helmet there looks to be a male coif, though the painting does not fully commit to it. He carries a short axe low in his right hand. It is a traditional Viking era kit, the kind of fur and hand axe you would hang on a Norseman, kept plain rather than ornamental. What gets me is how he just walks out, axe down, like a man who already knew this was coming, which is probably why he has the gear on in the first place. The foreground is the winter fog and the werewolves. To the man's right, low to the snow, with its head down, one comes forward. Out behind it and to the left, much larger, stands the one on 2 legs, barely more than a grey outline in the blizzard. And lowest of all, to the man's left, a third is pressed almost flat to the ground. One specific detail worth noticing is that these 3 are not the size of the werewolves in the other paintings in this video. Their fur is darker and they move as a pack, which makes me think we are looking at younger ones rather than the lone giants further along in this video. If you have played God of War, this setup will feel familiar. It is close to the snowstorm scene, where Thor first shows up at Kratos' door. Różalski painted this in 2017 though, so the painting got there first. And then there's the title, Knock Knock, like the wolves are the ones telling the joke and he's the punchline who has got to answer it. I don't know, that is of course I guess, I just thought it was a fun little detail as well. Anyway, let's go back a few centuries and put the werewolves in the real war. Brother Zygfryd and the Last Crusade is also from the Wolfpack project, and Różalski dated it himself in the caption, 1409, somewhere in Lithuania. So the setting is not me guessing, it is his. A little history regarding the painting, because the year is doing work. For most of the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church ran crusade against the pagan Baltic peoples, and by 1409, the Teutonic Order, a German crusading order of knights, was still campaigning out east. Lithuania was about the last corner of Europe, still holding on to its old guards, and 409 is the year before the Battle of Grunwald in 1410, where the Polish-Lithuanian side broke the order in one of the largest battles of the medieval period. So Brother Zygfryd is standing on the losing side of history and does not know it yet, though his face says some part of him has started to. The whole painting is built around one enormous bare oak in the dead center, and the knight is clearly Teutonic, white surcoat with the black cross, chainmail, a helmet shoved up of his face. This is one of the few paintings where Różalski tells most of the story through a single face, and he sells it here, the wide eyes, the slack mouth. It is a reminder that under all that Teutonic armor, the thing that can look so frightening to pagan people riding across a field is just a scared person who has realized he's in the wrong place. Now, if we follow the oak tree up, we can see that the branches all around him are hung with charms and little talismans, triangular wooden shapes, and higher on the right, a small carved figure tucked into a fork. This is a sacred tree, a pagan site, and he has backed himself right into the middle of it. Out in the far left of the field stands a robed figure with a staff, calm, watching it happen from afar. In the old Baltic religion, the chief priest, the Krivis, carried a staff as his mark of office, and the Raganos, the witches of the Lithuanian folklore, were said to shift into animals, so the figure reads as a pagan priest or witch presiding over the place. My guess past that point is only a guess, but it is hard not to wonder whether they called the wolves in or whether the wolves simply answered to them. And hold on to this figure for a minute, because he turns up again before the video is done. Another aspect is that Różalski has said in interviews that he never pictured his werewolves as evil monsters, more as guardians of the old order of nature. Read that way, this is the old land defending itself from the invasion of the Teutonic Order. So, moving on, and I have to be straight with you in this one. I could not find a written story from Różalski to go with this painting, so anything I say about what is happening here is me reading the canvas. The whole thing is painted in cold blue. A pale full moon hangs in the upper left. Down in the lower left corner, there is a small campfire, the one warm thing in the entire frame, orange against all that grey blue snow. A lone figure stands roughly in the center, armored, hooded, a long sword already drawn, with the blade catching what little light there is, and a second blade is slung across his back. He's turned to the right, away from the fire he just left. Ahead of him, set back, is a cluster of low huts, a village. Coming in from the right, across open ground, is the werewolf, and this one is enormous, far bigger than the three from the painting Knock. It is hunched, mid-stride, mostly swallowed by the haze. It is also alone, which, after that peck, feels deliberate. My read is that the size and the solitude point to an older one, a leader perhaps, and that pulls a direct line back to a painting called The Elizabeth in the last video, where the giant werewolves were the ones thrown at a whole army. If these things are smart enough to send their biggest and oldest at the biggest threat, then sending one alone at a single man says something about the man. Perhaps this warrior is of immense stature and capable of taking one down, but that is again just a guess. Another aspect is the campfire. Symbolically, he walked out past the only warmth in this picture, towards the werewolf, and he did not stay in one of those cabins where it was safe. That plus the whole set of gear again makes it look less like he was caught out and more like he came out here to wait for the werewolf. Alright, next painting, and now Różalski jumps forward to the 90th century. The Colors of Autumn comes from his Wolfpack 1863 world. His note on it is short, just a line about the power of wild nature. The year 1863 matters. It points to the January Uprising, when Polish and Lithuanian insurgents rose against the Russian Empire. In this version of that history, the woods are full of werewolves, and men and werewolves are tangled up in the same war, which kinda sounds like an alliance, right up until you look at what is happening in this painting. The painting is split by a river running straight across the middle. On the near bank where we stand, two black dogs or wolves stand in the dry autumn grass with their backs to us. They seem to be calm and are watching the scene across the water rather than reacting to it. Across the river is where it happened. A long smear of blood drags through the snow to the waterline, ending in a body pulled apart, gone to red and bone, and a rifle in the snow beside him. The rifle in the snow is what indicates that this might have been a planned encounter, or perhaps he wasn't able to react fast enough and this is why the werewolf have killed him. Past the kill stands the werewolf, blood down both arms, and near it, also bloodied, is a second man in a dark coat and a top hat. The other figure seems to be the werewolf's next target. The werewolf is already turned towards him, and this top-hatted gentleman is a figure Różalski keeps painting, the 90th century gent who wanders into the wrong field. You can catch him standing in almost the same pose in a painting called Fireworks, and the pistol man from I See You in the last video is cut from the same cloth. It seems as though Różalski has a running tradition with this type of outfit on a man and the appearance of a werewolf, but I can't quite figure out why. This next one is from the same 1863 world. Różalski posted 1863 Lady in Red back in 2016, again about the insurgents fighting the Russian Empire, and his caption ends with a bit of advice. If you ever see a beautiful woman standing alone in a dark forest, run. The first thing to say is that this one does not look like the rest. There's no snow and no winter blue. It is a warm, misty meadow, dry gold grass, a wall of fog-bound pines along the top, and the whole thing sits in soft grey haze instead of hard, cold light. After a run of winter scenes, it almost reads like a different painter for a second. In the foreground is a man in a worn coat. He holds a carbine in his arms, and he's picking his way up the slope. He looks like one more insurgent or a hunter. Out ahead in the middle of the field is the woman. Red dress, red scarf in her hair, one hand on her hip, a knife held loose in the other, and a black wolf is at her side. Then you catch the tree line. Spread across it, half lost in the fog, are four werewolves, big and upright, all turned towards the field. They are arranged around her before the man even arrives. The warning in the painting's caption is older than the painting. Slavic folklore is full of the beautiful woman in the wood who turns out to be the trap, the rusałka who draws men in and drowns them, sometimes pale, sometimes red-haired or gold-haired, with cousins of her all across across Poland and Ukraine. Różalski takes that figure and drops her into 1863 with a knife and a peg at her back. She is in the center of the circle and not a victim in it, and the red dress of her is the only loud color in the painting, which could be the exact reason why she got this man to walk out into the open in the first place. Next painting, and in this one I could not turn up a written story either, so once more the reading is mine here. Most of the frame is taken up by a wooden Russian Orthodox church. The onion domes and 3 bar crosses loaded with snow have dissolving into a blizzard. A low wooden fence runs across the field in front of it, and the birds wheel around the towers. Riding up towards it from the lower right is a man on a dark horse. He wears a top hat, a dark coat, and a sword is slung across his back. He wears the same outfit that the man we just watched walk into trouble in the colors of autumn, only this time he is mounted and armed, riding in rather than getting cornered. And all around the church, the werewolves are already in place. One is crouched low in the snow, another one is standing atop of the roof, and the rest seems to be gathering around the base of the church. Something very interesting about this painting is what it is built around. An Orthodox church this deep into Różalski's Poland-Lithuania reads as the Russian Empire's stamp on the land, and the werewolves in it seems to be holding it. They are not just passing through or circling the place, they are dug in around it, almost as if they captured it on purpose. Two things stand out. The sword on the rider's back suggests he's coming to fight rather than this being a random encounter, and the werewolves are standing more upright, more human in their posture than in any of the other paintings. So my read is, and it is only a read, is that this is a reclaiming, a piece of the Empire's faith clawed back for the older pagan religion. It is the same idea that closed Dear Elizabeth in the previous werewolf video, the land turning on whoever planted a flag in it. What the writer thinks he's going to do about it, alone with one sword, I genuinely do not know, but I have a hard time visualizing him coming out alive in this one. Anyway, moving on. And now for one that looks different from everything else here, and I mean physically different. This is not a digital painting. It is real paint on canvas, and you can see the weave of it in the surface, and Różalski even signed it in 2020. He works mostly digital these days and has said he tries to keep the two looking the same, but here you're looking at actual brush on cloth. I could not find a written story for it, so the read is mine again. The whole thing sits in cold blue, snowed over ground, a few blue fir trees fading into haze on the left, not much else. Given the title, we can assume that down in the lower left, a lone Viking is braced in the snow. The kit also backs it up, a conical helmet, a mail shirt under a heavy fur, leg wraps up his shins, and a round shield were standard for a Norse fighting man. And the mail and the sword are worth a note on their own, since both were costly in this period and marked a man of some wealth or rank. The shield is the loud part. It is a round plank built shield with an iron boss over the hand in the middle, the kind carried everywhere from the Norseland to the Baltic east, and he has it painted in red and blue quarters with a few rune-like marks. The color is not just decoration. Surviving shields and the old Norse sagas tells us these were painted in a narrow set of colors: black, yellow, red, and sometimes white, partly to keep the bare wood from soaking water, partly to hide the grain so a sword stroke could not follow the planks and split the thing in one hit. Red carried an extra meaning, at least in the sagas. A red shield read as a sign of hostile, the color a man showed when he had come to fight. So a shield this heavy on red, lifted by a man digging his heels into the snow in front of a charging werewolf, tells you which way the next few seconds are going before they happen. Unfortunately, the title seems to suggest that this Viking is going straight to Valhalla. Coming in from the right, taking up half the canvas, is the werewolf. It is huge, dark, mid-charge, mouth open, two pale eyes lit up in all that grey blue. Różalski keeps it loose and smudged next to this sharp little warrior, so it reads more like weather rolling in than a body. And it comes alone. That is starting to look like a rule across these paintings. The small dark ones travel in a pack, while the giants turn up by themselves. Moving on to the last painting, and it brings us back to where brother Zygfryd started, the Teutonic Order out in the pagan woods. I could not pin down an official story for this one either, so once more, this is me reading it. A Teutonic knight sits on a horseback in the center, seen from behind, white surcoat and a white cloth over the horse marked with the black cross The forest around him is tall, dark conifers, snow caught in the branches, and the light is nearly gone. On the right, a werewolf, upright, dark, snarling, hands open, and a good deal smaller than the lone giant from the painting 1 minute ago. There is a second one off to the left, lower and darker, half into the trees, and unlike that giant, these two are not out here alone. In the middle distance, calm in the snow, stands a robed figure, leaning on a tall staff with an antlered skull. If that figure looks familiar, it should. It looks like the same robed staff bearer standing out in the field in Brother Zygfryd, the pagan priest watching over the sacred ground. And this is where the two paintings start to rhyme. Both of them drop a Teutonic Crusader into the pagan woods and leave the priest off to the side, calm, leaning on his staff, while the wolves seems to do the work. He never lifts a hand in either one. What changes is the situation of the Teutonic Knight. Brother Zygfryd was on foot and backed against the tree, caught somewhere he had wandered into. This one rode in on horseback, with his sword already drawn, so he either knew what was waiting or went looking for it. Put the pair side by side, and the priest stopped looking like a bystander and starts looking like the fixed point, the old faith holding its ground, while one crusader after another comes up against it. My guess is the knight came back to break up the right the priest is standing over, and the priest has his answer ready on two legs. Either way, the sword is already up, so he knows this is not going to be a conversation, but instead a battle. So, those were the 8 I pulled together this time. Go look at the rest of Różalski's work, it is all linked in the description, and it is worth your time. There are a few I did not go into, one called The Gloves Are Off, where a cursed knight loses control while chasing a Teutonic raiding party that took the woman he loves, and one called Good Girl, with a single line about the daughter of a woman they burned for witchcraft, both worth a look on their own. If you enjoyed this, please like, share and subscribe, and if there is an artist or some piece of media you want me to cover, drop it in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.